Distinguished Rector, professors, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear students, I hope some students from Poland as well. Są tutaj studenci z Polski? Witam serdecznie. No bardzo ładna grupa. Witam studentów z Polski. So students from Poland are here, so that is an additional honor for me. Dear friends, I'm extremely glad to be a guest of Columbia University. Thanks for nice and very kind introduction. And first of all, I would like to thank you for this invitation. It is a source of great satisfaction to me to be able to meet with representatives of the United States intellectual elite, with the community that is sketching the path of the future not just for America, but also for the entire world. Indeed, that is the dimension of today's debate at the World Leaders Forum. I'm very pleased that Columbia University, one of America's most prestigious places of higher learning, is closely affiliated with Poland. It was here that the Polish Studies program was created 2 years ago. Thanks to this program, research is being conducted into Poland's more distant and contemporary history, and our country has become much better known to the American public opinion. I would like to thank cordially the authorities of Columbia University, especially its Eastern European Studies Center, for supporting this wonderful undertaking. I would also like to thank the Kościuszko Foundation and the Semper Polonia Foundation. I hope that it will be possible for the Polish Students' Faculty to launch operations in the near future at this renowned university, which will make our country even better known to Americans. Ladies and gentlemen, dear students, two notions have molded the most recent quarter of the century of Polish history: freedom and solidarity. Today, no one has any doubts whatsoever that what happened in Poland 25 years ago deserves to be called a turning point. The formation of Solidarity, in 1980 changed the course of history, and it initiated changes throughout Europe. The sowing of Solidarność has led, albeit not immediately, to a great yield. In Poland, this took place in 1989 in the form of the Round Table Agreement between the authorities and the opposition, which demanded democratic changes. Consequently, the first non-communist government was formed. Immediately thereafter, just like a domino, changes took place in East Germany, the Berlin Wall fell, the Velvet Revolution occurred in Czechoslovakia, changes took place in Hungary, Romania, the Baltic states, and finally the Soviet Union disintegrated. The Iron Curtain, which had seemed was supposed to have split our continent asunder for eternity, simply and suddenly melted away. The Cold War came to an end. The processes of enlarging NATO and the European Union demarcated a new era, an era of openness, cooperation, and integration. Poland is an excellent proof of the immense creativity, strength, freedom harbors. The greatest resource we had at the starting point was human energy and creativity. The Poland of 1989-90, when we embarked on the path of transformation, and contemporary Poland are, in fact, two different countries. Some examples. Our gross domestic product has grown over these 15 years by 42%. This is the greatest increase among all the Central and Eastern European states. The year of 2004 had particular meaning, as that was the year Poland acceded to the European Union. That was a time of truth for the competitiveness of our economy. The results have proven to be spectacular, especially in terms of exports, which compared to the previous year have spiked by more than 37%. The Polish economy has modernized. It is not just that it produces incomparably more than 15 years ago, but at the same time it also consumes one-third less water, one-half less coal, with emitting 10 times less dust into the atmosphere. Living conditions have improved considerably. Poles live 3 years longer on average. There are 4 times more phone lines and 3 times more passenger cars per 1,000 inhabitants. We are experiencing an educational boom. You, dear students from Poland, are a good example of this educational boom. Now, in Poland, we have 2 million students in universities, and that is 5 times more than in 1990. Nearly every other young Poland is studying. Although we are still not a wealthy nation, this year's UN report ranks Poland high in terms of living condition at number 36. We are among most developed nations. Of course, and that is necessary to underline, we also have problems. We must urgently create new jobs, reduce public debt, and effectively reform the healthcare system. You will conclude that these Polish challenges sound very familiar, even here in America, and especially in Western Europe. You can see the problems which we have, challenges which we face, they mean simply normalcy, including all its splendors and shadows. But this normalcy is really fact, a measure of our success. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, the enlargement of the European Union to include 10 new member states, including 8 from Central and Eastern Europe, marked with the experience of communism, became a great historical event. It is a response to the evil of the conflicts and divisions that Europe once lived through, while also being an opening to new, enormous opportunities for development. Poland today is actively participating in the debate on the EU's future. This community of 25 states, which will grow to 27 in the near future, and certainly more thereafter, is a complicated mechanism which must work in a coherent and effective manner. Hence, problems appear. People sometimes even speak openly of crisis. However, for some who looks at the European Union from the outside, the sentiment of crisis may be something incomprehensible or even absurd. Europe, in the process of uniting, does not have any reasons to have complexes or to be despondent. Its scorecard of achievements is really impressive. The countries that are waiting to join the community also see things this way. After all, they would not all be knocking on the EU's door if they believed that the life of crisis awaits them there. The reality of the EU is considerably better than the sentiment prevailing within. The process of EU enlargement should be continued. That is the most certain recipe for security, stability, and development for all Europeans, and the best that Europe can offer to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most important pillars of global security and stability is the transatlantic bonds. Poland is of the opinion that the European Union should continue with America to strengthen this close and lasting partnership. Only this will make it possible to counteract global threats and challenges effectively. This model reflects much better the idea of international solidarity than a la carte partnership, calling for cooperation on select issues. At the same time, we are in favor of the EU's co-accountability for global security to be considerably greater than to date. Europe and America may have different views and even different interests in one or another matter. Experience shows, however, that whenever we want, we are capable of reaching an agreement. A perfect example of this is the accord in the issue of jointly persuading the Iranian authorities to desist from uranium enrichment program. Its achievement is a good prognostic for further Euro-American cooperation. In matters of fundamental importance to the world, we have common interests. I think that this awareness is currently more firmly rooted on both sides of the Atlantic than just 2 or 3 years ago. Europe and America contribute to world politics advantages that are complementary, not mutually exclusive. I think that people in regions afflicted with crisis or countries suffering under despotic governments would have a hard time understanding why we cannot combine our forces to provide them with effective aid. Europe needs America, and America needs Europe. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is also something that strongly bonds our continents. The alliance has found its place in the new architecture of security after the end of the Cold War. It plays an enormous role in integration processes, in bolstering stability and confidence. NATO's open door policy should be continued because it serves democratic reforms well in countries aspiring to the alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, Poland feels accountable for the direction the matters take, and not just in our vicinity, not only in the European Union or in the transatlantic community, but also in the whole world. I'm thinking now both of problems that concern security as well as of threats ensuing from the absence of sustainable development. The essence of today's world is interdependency, and Poland has drawn its conclusions from this. We have not just fixed our gaze on ourselves, we also look to others, seeing them as partners for joint activities or as the persons to whom a helping hand must be extended. Indeed, this commitment is the leverage that elevates Poland's international position. Our country has good relations with all its neighbors. Polish soldiers have been taking part in peace and stabilization missions for more than half a century, and in a special way in recent years. We know from our history what the tragedy of war, external aggression, the violation of a nation's freedom and human rights, and the bitterness of isolation mean. That is why those who are currently living through similar misfortunes can count on Poles. We are in different places around the world. In those places where there are threats of conflict, where citizens have suffered at the hands of authoritative regimes, as well as in those places where our smoldering ruins people are attempting to build their tranquil existence anew. Polish soldiers bring support and hope in Afghanistan and in Iraq, in Syria and Lebanon, in Kosovo, Macedonia, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Our response to global challenges takes the form of support provided to more impoverished nations and the participation of Polish services and non-governmental organizations in humanitarian operations. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, in conclusion, I would like to say the idea of solidarity was not born in Poland. It is an eternal idea that goes to the core of what is best in our humanity. Nevertheless, the Poles were the ones who introduced it to the circle of political values, who transformed it into a social movement capable of changing reality. Today, this is our great message addressed to the entire world. At this time, I would like to mention Czesław Miłosz, who died 1 year ago, a great poet, a winner of Nobel Prize for Literature, sage who spent 33 years of his long life here in the US. He lectured at American universities. Miłosz was partially one of us and partially one of you. He embodied the fulfillment of the American dream, coupled with innocent longing for his lost homeland. He investigated the intricate path of the history and culture of our times. His great humanist wrote as follows in his moral treatise, I quote, "You are living here, now, hic et nunc. You have one life, one point. What you manage to do will remain." Dear ladies and gentlemen, let us do our utmost to manage to do as much good as possible for the world and for our joint success. Let's ensure that our posterity is as meaningful as possible. Let's build accord, openness, cooperation among nations and people. Let's cherish solidarity. Thank you for your attention.